Hello and welcome to FarmSpace. So, Nampo 2022, day 4. We're back here with Sakata and we've got the product specialist, Johan, behind me. He's going to be chatting everything that we need to know about tomatoes and peppers. Let's have a listen.
Thank you very much.
So, let's start off with the tomatoes as a crop in South Africa. What do we need to know? What sort of conditions do they like?
Okay, so tomatoes, it is generally considered to be a summer crop, but we are fortunate in South Africa that we have got the different climatic conditions for summer production again.
And farming with tomatoes in South Africa, what sort of things do we need to look out for? What's the ideal sort of conditions?
Okay, so there's no real ideal condition spot, which can have a very negative effect on your quality and your marketability of the fruit. So ideal, dry, warm conditions can give you a very good crop. The winter production area, for instance, the Western Cape, or the summer production in Western Cape, is ideal because that's a winter rainfall area. So then you do get some mist that does affect the crop, but on average, that's the ideal conditions. So now, for instance, in the Komati Poort area as well, being a summer rainfall area, they can produce through winter very little rainfall. That's also an ideal condition. If you experience what we have found in the, let's say, in the past month,
Yes.
the night temperatures have started to decline, but we still have got a lot of overcast conditions, rainy, wet nights with a lot of dew. Then we have seen this season a lot of problems with late blight, which is a Phytophthora species. It affects the foliage of the plant and then also affects the tomatoes on the calyx side, which is the green attachment point of the tomatoes. Then you can get severe losses and it can even basically wipe out your crop within a weekend if you don't control that. For the rest, as I mentioned, the bacterial speck and spot does create problems. And then the other soil-borne pathogens, we've got bacterial wilt, Fusarium and Verticillium, but most of the crops that we have got some sort of resistance to that. We've got specific problems with a virus that you cannot get a variety for. We are moving into the rootstock industry as well, where basically you will have a very strong root system resistant to a specific disease, and then a variety that's high yielding, high quality with virus resistance, and then we can graft the two on top of each other, and you can have a very successful crop at the end of that.
Perfect. So chat us about some of the varieties of tomatoes you guys offer at Sakata.
Okay, so the tomatoes, we characterize it basically as your indeterminate and your determinate. And there also we've got the salad or the saladette range. So the indeterminate salad is mostly, that's your best quality tomato. So it's in general very small attachment point or calyx attachment, a very good shelf life, and very nice smooth shoulders, very nice color up, very nice taste. Your determinates and the indeterminate ones, they can basically continue growing for as long as you can keep them healthy and you can support them. Those are mainly used under protection as well. And then we've got the determinate ones that basically it grows up to a specific height, and then the growing point ends in the flower truss. So then it basically terminates the growth. Those in general, they've got very good disease resistance, very nice flavor, but the quality is not always acceptable in certain markets. So you might get a little bit less shelf life on those ones, slightly more ribbed shoulders, but very, very nice tasting tomatoes. And for specific markets, that would be your ideal tomato. It's very cost effective to grow, and being a determinate, you can have a relatively compact plant and you can save on your trellising and labor cost on that.
Perfect. Just go into a bit more detail with the markets in South Africa with tomatoes. What are some of the factors that are affecting it?
Okay, it is in certain cultures or certain cuisines, they prefer, for instance, the saladette tomatoes, or what we could traditionally call in South Africa the jam tomatoes. We like to refer to it as saladette tomatoes. It's a little bit higher class, but that's a very nice fleshy tomato, so it's very good for cooking. And that's a certain market that you can have. It's mostly sold in crates these days. It is starting to become more available in the retail stores as well. And traditionally, then you would look at your retail stores where you've got the salad tomatoes, and then also the different differentiation between the size. For loose packing or on the punnets, they prefer a tomato on average about 160 to 180 grams. And then for your 1 kg packets, you can have a smaller tomato, anything from a 90 to 120 gram. So depending on what the requirements is, we see that the slightly, let's say, smaller medium fruit at the moment, that is very popular with the consumer, but that can change as preferences go along. We have seen that there was a movement a while back where people preferred a slightly larger tomato. And then we've got a growing market is your specialty tomatoes. We have a very nice, exciting new range in the Sakata stable. That is your what we call specialty or novelty tomatoes. That's on average about 10 to 20 grams. You get that in the mini plum shape.
You can carry on, don't worry.
That's fine. Then, so that's your basically from 10 to 20 grams. That's your oval shape, and then also your round ones. And we also have different colors. From the red ones, we've got pink ones, orange ones, yellow ones, purple ones, and then your orange ones as well. So there's a whole range, and that makes your very nice exotic pack, very nice for salads. Because everyone has got a different, it brings something different to the table, a different color, but then also everyone has got their own flavor palette. It makes really exciting for salads. It's not just the red mini plum tomato. Now you can have all the colors, different tastes, and once you mix that, very, very nice.
Perfect. So yeah, let's take us back to the top there. We're going to speak about peppers now. What do we need to know with peppers in South Africa?
Okay, in general, I would consider peppers to be a little bit easier to grow than tomatoes.
Yes.
They are slightly less susceptible to disease, although the biggest problem that we do experience with the peppers is the virus. We've got several viruses in South Africa that's prevalent. The one that's most prevalent and most widespread is the tomato spotted wilt virus. But we are lucky that most of our varieties now have got resistance to spotted wilt. Then we also have cucumber mosaic, PVY, and TMV. And depending on the area, it is either more prevalent or less prevalent. And we are now in the breeding process of developing more of those resistances into our hybrids. It is very difficult to combine everything. We're all looking for the perfect pepper, but it is very difficult. But depending on the area that you are, we can definitely do a recommendation for the best pepper suited to that area. And then other difficulties that we do experience with the peppers is Phytophthora. That's a different species to what we found on the tomatoes. It's more a soil-borne pathogen, but it does come with over-irrigation or heavy rainfall, and the soil becomes saturated, and that does attack the roots. And again, for that, we have got some varieties that is now resistant towards Phytophthora in itself, but we also have the rootstocks that you can graft the peppers, where you can have resistance to bacterial wilt, Phytophthora, and nematode resistance. But the main thing for peppers is we're looking for a nice blocky shape,
yes,
compact plant, high yielding, firm fruit, and then depending on the market, our majority is still produced outdoors for green, and then all peppers start off green, and then it can either turn red or yellow depending on the variety.
Yes.
The red peppers and yellow peppers generally get a much higher price, but you are looking at about 3 to 4 weeks that you have to leave it longer on the plant. The longer you leave a pepper on the plant, the lower your fruit set is. So that means the lower the yield. So then eventually you would want a higher price for the risk you're carrying and then for the reduced yields. The red and the yellow is mostly produced under protection as well. So you have got an infrastructure that you also have to repay on that. So in general, red and yellow, higher prices. Majority of the market is still green in South Africa, and we've got the variety suitable for the different areas as well.
Perfect. And what sort of varieties do you guys have at Sakata? What do you offer?
Okay, we've the one standard variety, which is considered, if you look at some of the literature, it's a variety called Double Up. It was bred in the USA, and that is used for the standard to basically measure everything against. But the Double Up, it's about 20 years old. It does not have a very good virus resistance, but we use that to get the benchmark for yield and quality. What we're doing now is we're developing varieties. One variety that is exceptionally well, you can see I'm wearing the shirt here,
yes,
is a variety Momentum that has got cucumber mosaic, PVY, and Phytophthora resistance. We've had exceptional yields with this variety. At the moment, we are experiencing a little bit of a seed shortage due to its popularity. And then we also have varieties like SVPP 1987, which has got the spotted wilt resistance, TMV, and then also Phytophthora. And a huge benefit for that variety is it's got powdery mildew resistance. So especially in your drier areas, going into slightly difficult conditions, powdery mildew is a very severe disease that can defoliate your plant, which basically means it kills the whole factory and you lose production. Now with the 1987, we've got powdery mildew resistance, and which basically we did the trials. We have some successes in the commercials where the standard variety is completely discontinued with that one, and this variety with the powder is green as grass, really nice, uniform, blocky fruit. Um, we've also got some new varieties like the Cherokee, which is also it's a slightly taller growing variety. It can grow for a longer season. It's widely adapted. It can grow in the open field as long as you support that. It does tend to bear its fruit on the outer sides of the branches. It makes slightly longer internodes, but if you support that, then you get the benefit of those high yields. If you don't support it, it tends to break, and you can lose a little bit of the yield. But very nice quality, heavy, firm fruit, and then it's also got the spotted wilt resistance. And then we also cater for some of the markets where what we call the spec market,
Yes.
which is the clients would prefer a little bit less expensive seed. They would like to take a risk maybe in some of the shoulder areas, going into winter, planting early out of winter. We don't necessarily want to take the risk with very expensive seed. Then we've got a variety called Delisha that we use specifically for that slot. That has got Phytophthora resistance, so the root system is very, very strong, and it compares to some of the more expensive hybrids. Very nice, uniform blocky, but it's a more concentrated set. So where your other varieties you can harvest maybe for up to 6 months in the open field, this one may